great English painters in the early 19th century. Most people might point to Lawrence in portraiture or Turner and Constable in landscape, but relatively few people might think of Richard Parkes Bonington. Yet Bonington was one of the most important and certainly most brilliant English painters of the era. He was born in Nottingham in 1802, and it was a consequence of the economic depression in the second decade of the 19th century that propelled the Bonington family to France, where Bonington's father established a retail business in lace making in Calais, later moving to Paris, where he had a lace shop. And this gave Richard Parkes Bonington his artistic education. He was trained and entirely educated in France by copying first pictures, old master paintings in the Louvre, where he met Eugène Delacroix and other prominent French painters of the Romantic movement, and then into a formal attachment to the studio of Baron Gros, where he was given the normal academic training available to French painters, with all the access to the masterpieces of European painting of the 17th and 18th century schools. And this was an opportunity for this young man to learn a craft and a method of painting that was largely unavailable to English artists at home. But more than this, he commenced his career as a watercolour painter, which was a particular English facility, largely unknown in France, which meant a fusion of techniques, bringing the qualities of lightness and subtlety in watercolour to the painting of oil subjects with a similar facility, lightness, delicacy of touch, that had a tremendous and transformative effect on all of his French contemporaries who had never seen anything quite like this. The year of 1824 was one of enormous importance in European cultural affairs. Two of the great romantics of the age suddenly and unexpectedly died, Lord Byron at Missolonghi and Theodore Géricault in Paris. And at this time, Bonington turned to oil painting, and on a series of sketching tours along the coast of France, produced a number of ambitious pictures such as this one, which took as their philosophical starting point the bedrock of Dutch landscape painting, which he had seen and copied in the Louvre, but brought to it this, as I've said, this facility of lightness and airiness that was a particular English province of watercolour. And so it was that at the Salon of 1824, Bonington, at the age of 22, burst onto the Paris scene and won himself, with this painting, the gold medal of the Salon. But he was also fortunate to collide there with John Constable, who also made a tremendous sensation in Paris, such a sensation that he had never made in London with his great landscape painting, The Haywain. Bonington is probably not better known because his life was cut so short. He died a few days before his 26th birthday in 1828 from TB. And one of the great hypotheticals of art history is what would have happened to English art if Bonington had lived as long, for example, as his direct contemporary Thomas Sidney Cooper, who was still churning out cow paintings in the 1890s. Would Bonington have been captivated, affected by the Pre-Raphaelites, for example? How would he have interacted with late Turner? We know that he was very interested in Turner when he went back to England and was impressed by Turner's late painting style. Of course, none of these questions have any meaning. His premature death ensured that Bonington's career remained tantalisingly and tragically brief, and that there are relatively few paintings. There were even relatively few collectors of Bonington's art, one of whom, of course, perhaps most importantly, was Paul Mellon, and is the reason why Yale today possesses such a stunning group of masterpieces by this relatively unknown young English romantic.